Hello everybody, Helen Chin Lu here, certified reflexologist, certified energy medicine practitioner, Reiki master, and teacher. Hey, anyone who's on board, just drop me a line, just say hello. I would love to see who's out there. Anyways, I want to welcome you to this next episode on how we give away our healing powers. Today, we're going to talk about how to break repetitive destructive patterns. And feel free to jump in and ask me questions as we go along, because I am fed by people's energy and I want your input. And some people have asked me, Helen, can you do a more in-depth conversation? So I don't know exactly what you'd like to talk about until you ask me. So let's talk. So how do we give away our healing powers? We do it through addictions. Addictions could be things that we just love to do that's not necessarily helpful. We talked about that yesterday. And if you missed that episode, just scroll down and you'll see what we discussed yesterday. Today we're going to talk about repetitive destructive patterns. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about financial challenges. And then we're going to go into physical and emotional challenges, and then we're going to end this little short series with how we become spiritually disconnected. So let's talk about how do we give away our powers. First of all, and we are made of energy. Everything is made of matter and energy moves. In fact, it fluctuates through our day depending on our moods and our circumstances. Sometimes we feel really good about what we do, and then sometimes we just feel awful. But all we are doing really is managing our energy throughout the day. And depending on how conscious you are of your actions, this is how you're able to, I would say, modulate, monitor, and manage your energy. And if you live in a very conscious state, you're always constantly processing, and hopefully not obsessively, but just to the point where you're checking in. But if you live in a very unconscious state where you have no, I would say, awareness of your actions and what you do and what you say, this is how we end up leaking our energy out of our bodies. So again, what is power? Power is all about control, outcome, positive outcome. Well, hopefully they're positive. Think about what you want to achieve in your life and what you want to get out of it, and that's what positive outcome is. Let's talk a little bit about repetitive patterns. What is considered negative repetitive patterns? Let's say if you're one of those people who you're late for every single appointment. In fact, you sabotage yourself to be late by overdoing way too much. Promising yourself to get up and exercise or fit it into your day, and then come home and say, I'm way too tired. Starting a project, and then you give up halfway because you find that is what you might think is not an investment of your time and commitment, or you find that's way too hard, you give up. Being absent-minded intentionally by saying, oh, I forgot. In fact, I have a son who tells me a lot, he forgot. Or, and then I'm saying, okay, what are you going to do to help yourself remember? Because if you fall into that repetitive negative cycle, it's really difficult to break out, especially if you're not even aware of your habits. Yeah, it's really awful. And one of the things that I do, and I'm conscious about it, is being late for appointments. My first appointment, I promised myself I would not start to work so early in the morning before I leave the house, and give myself enough time to prep to leave. I'm one of those, what I call, hyper-focused people. And once I start a project, I just can't break away. So I have taught myself, listen, Helen, let's wait. Let's stop at least 25 minutes to 30 minutes, get into a mindset, and just break away from what you're doing until we go. So another repetitive, destructive pattern that we have, let's say partners. You go out with the same guy, the same woman, the same personality over and over again, and you wonder why. Just a quick story. I was working with a client who was telling me, Helen, I seem to go out with the same kind of woman all the time. A woman that comes in baggage. And why do I do this? Why do I just attract the same kind of people? And I said to him, that's because that's the order you put into the universe. He looked at me like, what do you mean an order? Have you ever changed the order of what type of person you want to meet? And he says, no, I've never thought of it this way. And I said, I want you to go home and really think seriously, what are the traits that you are looking for in a partner? And he did. He thought seriously. And then I said to him, verbally in your head or out loud or even on a piece of paper, list the traits you want. And then this is where you, for some people, you could do it as a ceremony. Which I'll talk more in another workshop, a little talk if this is something you're interested in. How do you set your intention and put it into the universe? So if you're interested in that fire ceremony, please let me know. And you could comment, feel free to comment. So those are just a few examples how we sabotage ourselves every day. Notice how I use the word sabotage? We energetically sabotage ourselves because the way energy medicine works is not only physically, emotionally, there's a spiritual component. And even though you might, and I don't think it's very rare, do I see people work on 3 levels. All the 3 levels incorporate all those aspects into what I consider true healing. So just to give you some ideas, let's talk about how are these patterns established, repetitive patterns. Yes, you could say, well, this is what way I was taught. This is my parents. My parents were the one that nagged me to death. And unconsciously what I might have done without me realizing, just to find my power, I did the opposite of what they told me to do. So that's not uncommon, especially when you have kids going off to college for the first time and they end up going crazy because they're no longer under somebody's watch 24/7. So there's that aspect of breaking out and want to be free. So these patterns more times than not are the result of internal fundamental framework that you have decided to live by, consciously or unconsciously. Your framework. Just think about a house, and when you're building a house, you have your frame. Well, you have an energetic framework in your soul. So think about what values and beliefs you have established and lived by, and just be aware of them, and notice how do they serve you, and it might be time to let them go. And think about this also. Who triggers those emotions? Usually it's a partner, a spouse, a parent, a manager, a boss, somebody that you feel is standing above you energetically, work-wise, physically, and this is how we end up giving our powers away. But by recognizing your patterns, you got to ask yourself questions, and you got to really be honest about questions. For example, as I mentioned before, I'm late. I would say sometimes. Some people would say more times than others for my first appointment. And one of the things I am thinking about, okay, why am I late? What do I do to set and sabotage myself? Do I do it because I'm under a certain frame time where I got to meet them in the agreed time that I'm going to meet with them? It's very similar to these Facebook chat, because I promise I'll be here at 10 o'clock. So I want to be on time. So I'm getting ready, making sure that I'm energetically ready. Am I angry about that I have to prepare for this meeting? And sometimes what happens a lot of times, I'm just too hyper-focused, and it's really hard for me to switch gears. I'm one of those types of people. So in order for you to understand what is going on with you, write some things, and really write some things that you know are what you do, because the only way changes can be made is by developing an action plan. As much as I love that expression, like in the movie Fields of Dream, built it and they will come. Well, in the movies that might happen, but in reality it doesn't. You could build it, but what are you going to do to follow through to make it happen? So you got to make a conscious decision for change. So let's talk about how to reclaim your powers. I'm going to take a sip. As an old lady now, I talk a lot. So the first thing you must do to reclaim your power, you must own your future. You go, own my future? What does that mean? You have to own your life. You have to own your path. You've got to own your future and make the changes that's necessary for you to break your pattern. Right? Will you be 100% successful? Chances I would say no. No matter how disciplined you are, there's always going to be setbacks. But as you have setbacks, get up. Constantly get up. In fact, this is something I talk a lot about in my first online class, Chakra 101, Know Your Energy. If you don't understand your energy and how it flows, it's almost impossible to break your cycle, because you're a victim. And I want you to be a victor, not a victim. All right? And to be victorious, you've got to do something about your behavior and what you do every day, okay? Learn to say no and set limitations and boundaries. So if you're one of those people pleasers and you like to give a lot of yourself, well, you know what? You're going to have to define how much you want to give. Like, what's important to me as I work with people, I devote at least 2 hours of me time daily. So that means walking, reading, doing things to recollect my energy, because I give a lot of myself to everybody every day. So I got to come back and focus on me at the end of my day. Recognizing your strengths and up your strengths, and really reinforce them. And if you have things that you would like to work on, all right, take tiny little steps to make change. It's all about feeding your soul. If you do not feed your soul regularly, you end up becoming depleted, and this is when health issues come. And we'll talk more about that in the next couple of days. You got to feed your soul. And lastly, who drains you? You got to know what are your energy drains. So if it's work, people, friends, family, you're going to have to define how much you want to give of yourself. This is something you must make extremely clear for you. So let's talk about, here I am. Let's talk about our mantra, because I'm into mantras. And if you want a copy of my mantra, please email me at wellness@healingplacemedfield.com. I am more than willing to share. You know what? I'll probably just post it on my little index above in the box so you can see it. So my mantra is, I honor myself. I will not be a prisoner of my past. I have the power to go forward. I will eliminate whatever drains me. I choose not to associate with toxic people. I am my best friend. Remember, If you are not your own best friend, then who are you? So think about honoring yourself on this journey to break whatever repetitive cycles. And if you'd like me to go deeper into this subject, please put it in a little box or email me at wellness@healingplacemedfield.com. I would love to share and teach. And join me again for tomorrow. We're going to talk about how financial challenges exhaust our powers. So that's Helen Chin Liu from the Healing Place. I honor you and thank you so much for spending this time with me. Bye-bye.